Hello and welcome to another episode of In the Wheels, the show that champions all riders from world champs to weekend warriors, where everyone has their story to tell. Today, the story is brought to you by the magnificent Lizzie Deignan. She's an amazing rider, and I'll be honest, I was a little nervous when chatting with her. Extra special 100th episode is with Queen Lizzie. Just a great person. Do check out the rest of our back catalogue because that's also awesome. And we did have a couple of techie issues, which means a little bit got cut out. I've tried to resurrect as much as I could. Because I wanted as much of a 100th episode to be present. Just sit back, relax, and enjoy the ride. Hello, thank you so much for joining me today. How are you doing?
I'm really well, thank you, yeah.
Oh, glad. It's a bit of a, strange, I guess the easiest question to ask is, how did you get into cycling? But I'll kind of want to frame it slightly different as well, because to me, you feel like you were a bit of an inspiration for a generation that came after you.
Oh, thank you.
What inspired you, though, to get started with your cycling journey?
I was not from a cycling family, never really consciously knew anything about cycling apart from the Tour de France and Otley Criterium that came to town every year. So totally a novice. I mean, I always had a bike. Like as a family, I'm the third child, so I always got everyone else's old bikes. And I was just really, really lucky that when I was 15, the talent team, as it was called then, came to my school looking for kids who could ride a bike that they wanted to kind of put into this program towards the London 2012 Olympics. Literally, thank goodness they came to my school, gave me a bike, a coach, £500 of lottery funding, which was a fortune back then. And I kind of still thought it was a weird old bloke sport. I didn't really get it for a little while. It's quite a hard sport if you don't have a family that's involved in it to understand and get your head round. But I was really lucky that my first coach, a guy called Phil West, just made it really fun. And a lot of my training was on the track in the velodrome in Manchester. And that sort of was my first inspiration, going to watch a World Cup with Victoria Pendleton in after 2008 Olympics. And I thought, oh, actually, wow, this could be quite glamorous and exciting and different to kind of the old blokes in the baggy yellow lycra on the side of the road that I had been introduced to. So, that she captured my imagination a little bit, and I thought, oh, actually, it is possible to be a professional cyclist, and that was the start of it for me.
Wow. Yeah, I wouldn't have, if you'd made me guess, I would probably not have picked Vicky. I don't know why. It's just, I don't know. But it's really interesting.
It was just a powerful performer, and she really got the crowd going, and it was totally different in terms of vibrancy and colour and stimulating compared to what I'd, going out on my own around Yorkshire on a bike after school. It kind of made me think, oh, what's possible,
Were you ever tempted to kind of follow her and become a sprinter, or were you always endurance?
Always endurance, yeah. No, never fast enough. And also, I say the track inspired me, but really I've always loved the road way more than I have the track. I love being outside, so.
Yeah. Well, I guess the other question I wanted to ask on the sort of inspiration front is, are you yourself cognizant of being an inspiration? While you're riding, going, oh yeah, all these juniors coming up and joining the pro ranks, I'm part of the reason they're here?
No, I would say I'm more aware of my responsibility sometimes around, if I was around the dinner table with younger riders, to be conscious of the things that I'm talking about or saying, regarding, because it does impact you quite a lot when you're a younger athlete and you hear somebody, I don't know, talking about eating grapes on a bike ride instead of a gel or whatever. Like that. When I think back to my introduction and some of the older peers I had, their examples weren't great. So I was aware of kind of always trying to set like a healthy, balanced kind of example, I suppose.
Yeah, I want to now talk about your your road career and take you back to 2008, which is too many years ago for me to count, and I don't like the prospect of how long ago. But yeah, you raced in a weird kind of coincidence. You raced at Darley Moor, and one of my peers at school, like we're the same year group, but he was born before Christmas and I'm after Christmas, so he
Older than
was
me.
already a junior,
Yeah.
and he's raced against you, which is a wild thing to think about because you did the 3-4 race at Darley Moor back in 2008. Like, I guess what motivates you to take part in that race as opposed to any other opportunities that might be available?
Um, I suppose I was British based then, and it was always a really valuable way of pushing yourself, racing against the men. We did have a women's series, and we had some really good races, but I've always been somebody who prefers racing to training. So if there's an
Hmm.
opportunity to get stuck into a race, then I would have chosen that option. And I think skills wise, somewhere like Darley Moor, you really have to be on it to survive the peloton, really. Third, fourth racing in the UK can be pretty treacherous. So you have to hold your own, especially when you're the smallest rider in the peloton. So it's
Yep.
it's a way to learn, but a brilliant way to learn too. I think I did quite a few 3-4 races in the UK and learned a lot from doing it.
Yeah, because I'm now remembering now you've mentioned it. Like I did Victoria Park. I don't know if you ever went to that. It's at Royal Leamington Spa,
Right.
and it's just it's almost like a velodrome on the path. Like it's just flat. There's maybe one corner of the whole thing, and
Yeah.
otherwise it's like a gradual circle round. But they split it and they did a free race and a 4 race.
Oh,
And
right.
because like some weird coincidence, I'd earned a point as a youth rider, I was automatically third for life. And I was so glad because like the 4th race was brutal. Like I think that was harder than the free race because the 4th everyone's hungry and trying to get up the ranks, and free
Yeah.
you've kind of half of you have already made it and know that you're not going to get to the next one for a while, so you're kind of a bit more chill. And it's kind of funny how that pans out. But also in the year 2008, you did your first World Championships on the road at Varese,
Yeah.
which Nicole Cook won. Like, what was your role within that team?
So I think it was my A level year. It was, yeah. So I just
God.
finished school, so I was still at school, and I was one of the first kind of ones from the track squad to be asked to do the road race, which I was really delighted about. And obviously Nicole was Olympic champion. So to be invited into that team was pretty cool. And yeah, the team meeting was any early breaks, Lizzie, you've got to be in them. So like that was quite a clear role. I made it into the break, but then the break lasted 7 of the 8 laps of the race. And I was just like, I remember riding past the pits every time and they were just shouting at me, sit on, sit on. And I was like, well, yeah, obviously. I'm not pulling through. And then when the group came back to us on the last lap, and Nicole said to me, just lead me out into the climb. So I led her out into the climb, and then she went on to win the race. And it was, amazing thing to be a part of. And also just inspirational that somebody could win an Olympic Games and then maintain that form, focus, and everything
Hmm.
else through to the World Championships. So,
Yeah, I guess that's a question I hadn't really planned, but like, how, do you ride differently when you're the leader versus when you're kind of support riding, because I know from my own experience, like I pull harder when like I'm trying to help a teammate out. I really bury myself. Whereas if I'm the leader or if I'm racing for myself, I'm kind of, I still want to win, but I'm not gonna go quite 100%. I'll go like 95 because I want to be able to post up, I guess. I don't know. I've never had that situation. I haven't raced for a long time, but do you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, no, I think sometimes when you're the out and out leader, race in, race out, you actually almost lose condition sometimes because you're saving for the final. And when you're domestic, you get in so much from racing because you're on it from the start. Psychologically, it's easier to dig deeper as a domestique, I think, because you don't have the fear of failure. So you go until you blow, basically, and you go as deep as you possibly can. Whereas it's a much more measured kind of tactical game when you're the leader. So I think you don't find the same. It depends on the parcours. If it's a mountaintop finish and you're trying to follow Demi Vollering, then you've no choice to go pretty deep. But yeah, it's definitely different psychologically.
yeah. Yeah, I was just curious, like, do you prefer, like, or did you prefer being a domestique versus being a leader? Or, because I guess there's different aspects to there, isn't there?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I found it easier to be a leader, I would say, because, but maybe that's also because of the stages of my career. So when I was a leader, I was winning, I was highly motivated, big goals, and then towards the back end of my career, it was more about like balancing family life and choosing a domestic role where I could, have that kind of manage everything a little bit more. So training for somebody else is harder, but racing for someone else is easier, if that makes sense. So
Yeah.
if you're training towards your own goal, the training is much easier than training to try and support somebody to win a race. But both have their own benefits, definitely.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'd like to go back to a different year. Now to 2009, we've moved up a year. You won the youth at the Giro, and
Oh, yeah.
I think you podium at Ardèche. And like by that stage, had you already decided that you were going to fully focus on the road? You said that you were like one of the first track riders to do the worlds on the road. Like, had you gone, oh yeah, this is like road is my home now. I like goodbye Manchester, hello, Nice, wherever, or Girona,
Yeah.
or something.
Well, it was Belgium at the time, so I lived in
Oh
Belgium
yeah.
until 2013. Um,
Mm.
and no, because I was always very good at points racing and I liked points racing, kind of replicated the road in a way. And then they changed the Olympic format and changed it to an omnium. But that omnium also had a pursuit and a flying 200 meters in it.
Mm-hmm.
So I wanted to give it a good crack, and I did try. I got a silver medal in 2010, potentially in the Omnium, but I just was never going to be a good pursuiter. So that was always going to be my downfall, and I just had more potential on the road and definitely more freedom. I did struggle in that track environment in Manchester. I really struggled living there. So to be able to, I did choose the road for the kind of it felt like a riskier option because on the track British cycling was the most successful nation. If you could
Mm-hmm.
get yourself into the team pursuit team, for instance, you're guaranteed an Olympic medal of some sort, whereas choosing the road was a very different kettle of fish. But I'm so happy I did.
Yeah, I guess then, were you nervous to make that jump? And because it does sound like a quite a tenuous way of going. Is like, oh, if I go the road, like I might win one stage, maybe, like in a year. Like someone with your talent obviously is going to get more, but even then, like one
Yeah,
crash, one injury.
I was turning my back on funding as well. So there was no funding if you went onto the road. And also there was no real pathway to being a professional at that time. My first contract was €200 a month, I remember. So I was relying on doing TMS races in Belgium to kind of top it up. But what I was able to do, I think it was because of the silver medal in the World Championships in the Omnium, you get a year's funding as a track rider, even though I was not going to be a track rider. So I sort of secured myself a year's worth of salary, essentially. I think it was £16,000 it was. So, it was doable. And then I committed to it and luckily was successful at it, and then got offered a contract from Cervelo at the end of that year. So made the right decision.
Yeah. It's actually, you've made me think about Sean Kelly's book, Hunger, where he talks about like his boss at the time was very much into, I guess, some unhealthy habits of like not letting riders eat that much and things like that, but developing that kind of hunger instinct. And you said that you're on €200 a month, which is not a lot. And I think that provides a different type of hunger. It would still make someone quite hungry for success and doesn't give you much of a safety net. Like, do you think that maybe in a weird kind of way made you successful, because you're like, well, if I fail, I've got nothing, and the only way to do well is to succeed?
Yeah, absolutely. But I do have to caveat that by saying, I come from a privileged position of, if it didn't work out, I could move home and live with my parents who live in a nice house, and they both, are earning money in a secure job and stuff. So I'd got that background to fall on. So I think that enables you a certain level of like freedom to fail, if you see what I mean. And yeah, I'm really happy. Although I'm in some ways jealous of the opportunities the young riders have now, I'm also really happy that I had that experience, because I never took anything for granted. And even towards the end of my career, when, I had 3 swan years making my bottles at the start of a race, I always remember making my own bottles and doing all those things myself, and appreciating how good I had it at the end.
Yeah, again, you're making me remember like so many things I've read in the past of like, I think it was Cav who said about like he always had a plan of his feeding strategy. So even if he missed a feed, if he missed his bidon or missed whatever, he still had the gels in his pocket so that he would be okay, because he knew he'd already planned it out. And if he got other stuff, if he grabbed a bag, I can't remember, musette, that's it. If he grabbed a musette, great. But if he missed or dropped it or whatever, he was still sorted. And it kind of feels that way for you of like, yeah.
Yeah, it's true.
It's kind of, yeah. Anyway, going back to a different year now, you said that you were kind of scouted for the 2012 Olympics. How was that going in? Because from what I understand, you were the first medal of the whole games. I remember watching the games, and I can scarcely remember because it's 14 years ago now and I'm getting on a bit. But like, how did that feel to sort of lead the charge for Team GB?
Unreal. Yeah, hard to even... It was so... I don't know if you're married or whatever, but it's the only thing I can kind of relate it to for other people. Like, you have this experience, this just magical day, and it's so overstimulating and just phenomenal that you actually can't physically or emotionally take it all in. And that's how the Olympics was for me. Like, if there's one day of my life I'd like to relive, it would be that, because I almost couldn't absorb it all because it was just so much. I mean, the course was line deep, like 3 people deep for 140 kilometers. And riding through these like landmarks in London, it was just such a pinch me moment. And then obviously finishing on the Mall against Marianne Vos, the greatest of all time. Sorry about that if you can hear the screwdrivers going on in the background. And yeah, it was just, it's hard to describe just how phenomenal that experience was. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I am married, and I do remember that sort of day. And it's like, yeah, I always said that it's like it's the one day where you sort of commit to one person that you don't see for the whole of that day.
Yeah.
And with your sort of attack, it was likewise, like you were committed to Team GB, but you didn't see much of them and much of your teammates because you were off the front with Mariana, and I can't remember who came third, which I feel like it's
That's
someone
good.
Russian.
Kaplinskaya came third, yeah.
Ah, yes.
Yeah.
So yeah, that must have been crazy. And then off the back of that, or the following year rather, year
No,
before you'd won national champs, and the year after you'd won national champs. And then you won them 2 more times. And I guess my question there is, what's your issue with even numbered years? Because you didn't win one. It's always odd numbered years.
yeah, well, nationals is one of those races that's just the hardest race to win, especially when you're the favourite, because you're marked out, and it's different now. The racing is harder, but back then it was down to me to make the race hard, but then also not completely cut myself out of the race as well. So I always found nationals really hard. I was always really nervous about nationals, trying to get it right tactically and stuff. And the first jersey meant the most to me. I'd always wanted to be national champion, and to get to wear the jersey is pretty special. So
yeah, I guess, like, did it get any easier balancing it? Like, because once you've won one, you're like, well, I've got the round jewels. They're always going to be on my jersey now for life, whether I win again or not. Like, did that make it easier for you, or were you like putting yourself under more pressure to prove it wasn't like a fluke or a one-off or anything like that?
no, I think I've always been somebody who has a goal, ticks it off, and feels like I don't need to repeat it. Like
Okay.
dominance or like repeated victories is not something. Yeah, like for instance, I always wanted to win Flanders and finally won Flanders, and I was like, the desire to win it again wasn't there, like in the same way.
Yeah.
Obviously, I mean, no one doesn't want to win Flanders, but
Yeah.
yeah, the motivation, like I was always searching for new goals in my career, always.
Wow. And then, yeah, I mean, you'd had quite a few interesting goals because national champs, you won world championships. For some reason, I haven't got that written down unless it's somewhere else on my page, which is really weird for me.
Yeah,
But yeah, what was it like to win the world? I can't even remember what year it is, so apologies on that.
it's all right. It's also a long time ago, 2015. Um, Again, really surreal moment. Went into it as favourite and delivered as favourite. So it was like, looking back, I'm incredibly proud of how I delivered that, because I basically did it on my own as well. Like I did have great teammates, but they were young, they were inexperienced, and no one else finished the race apart from me. So to win a world title as a one woman band against the kind of ferocious Dutch and the Italian squads, to be able to kind of unseat them by myself, I look back and I think, wow, that's incredible that I did that. So that was very, very special. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a weird. I guess a question I'm not even thought of again. Like, but did as an outsider, I was always looking at the UKT or GB team and going, well, we've had Nicole Cook and like all this track success, like to be sort of competitive on the road feels natural. But now I'm a bit older, I'm like, well, the Dutch are like born on their bikes practically, and like they're always going to be up and winning, and the only thing that their greatest enemy is themselves half the time with their tactics. And
Yeah.
but like, how did you feel like GB was able to be competitive, or did you feel very much like an underdog going in and having to try and punch above your weight?
It's definitely evolved and changed. I mean, there's not been shy about it in the past, or hidden away from the fact British cycling were not good with the road riders, female side of the team. You know, Nicole Cook was Olympic and world champion, but that was down to Nicole Cook. It had nothing to do with the British cycling system of the time. And Emma Pooley, Sharon Laws. There was a group of us that were really strong and really competitive in the international stage, but it was independent of British cycling. There was no pathway or development squad or whatever. That has changed in recent years, definitely. It fundamentally comes down to the fact that there is more funding available for track because there's more medals there. So they have to run British cycling as a business. They have to consider where they fund. But luckily, you know, the professional side of it has now stepped up too. So as a road rider, as a young female road rider, you don't rely on British cycling to make it because there's professional teams out there. So yeah, we're in a much better place. British cycling now, there's some really strong, exciting athletes coming through. So I think, we're up there with one of the best nations again.
Yeah, definitely. And changing tack slightly then to talk about evolution, actually, was like, did your specialism change through your career? Or like, because I feel like some of your results early on suggest that you might have been more of a climber at times, or it could just be a mystery, like, you know how a result sheet only tells you half a story. So it could be that. But then you win Roubaix, and I'd love to talk about that very shortly. But like, that's a tough woman's course. That's not a climber. That's not, you know, that is very much a day for someone who can, I guess, bare their teeth and get stuck in and grit it out.
I think I've always been an all-rounder, and lucky enough that I could kind of tailor my training towards a specific goal. So if I wanted to win in Rio, for instance, at the Olympics that year I totally focused on my climbing because of the course, and became a better climber because of it, but then lost a little bit of sprint. And I've always kind of been able to pick and choose a little bit which side of the kind of power curve I fall on. It also kind of just was figuring that out myself, because I think often when you come from the track, people presume you're a sprinter, so they put you in a sprint box, and sometimes you fall into other people's boxes for yourself. And I guess I did have a go at everything, I suppose.
Yeah. And then on Roubaix then, like, winning the inaugural one, I still feel gutted that like TV just didn't bother showing the whole race. They were like, oh yeah, well, nothing will happen for the first 80k. We can show it at the last 80k. And it's like, as you a couple of minutes off the front, like, not victory sealed, but it felt inevitable from that point because of the gap you had. Like, how was that day for you though?
Certainly never felt inevitable. I felt like I was being hunted until the very last lap of the velodrome. Again, just another surreal day. I had really pinned all my hopes and aspirations on the Leuven World Championships, which was the week before. So it was post-pandemic sort of time. So Roubaix was in October, which was different. I'd failed in Leuven, had terrible legs. I was really disappointed and went to Roubaix as a domestique for Ellen van Dijk and Elisa Longo-Borghini. Really happy to do that job. Had no expectation around myself. As again, like you just said, no one ever sort of said to me, oh, Lizzie, you could win Roubaix. I was kind of seen as maybe too small at the time and stuff. So, it was the back of my mind, victory. And then everything went right for me that day. Just everything fell into place, sort of one of those moments in time that you wish you could plan for, but you can't. They just happen. And incredibly lucky that I didn't crash and didn't puncture and all those things, and had the smoothest run of anybody that weekend, I think.
Yeah, but then you say smoothest run, like, the iconic clip that I remember of your race was that back wheel skidding out. I'm like, oh, I got like heart went in my mouth slightly. I'm going, oh, maybe it's not as inevitable as I first thought. Like,
Yeah, exactly. You're only moments away from a disaster in Roubaix. You really are. Like my team car behind me punctured and drove like on a broken wheel for 15 kilometers. And then I had no follow car for the last 5K. So if I'd have punctured, I'd have been on my own race over. So you really are. You're on a knife edge the whole time.
I guess what better time to learn cyclocross than 5K out of the finish at Roubaix? Like,
Yeah,
geez, that's crazy. And yeah, I can't even imagine, like, yeah, just sitting in that team car probably would have felt awful. But yeah, seems like a day made for you.
My mechanic actually got the spare bike off the roof and rode behind me as long as he could.
Wow.
Yeah, poor guy. He didn't last very long. But
I was going to say, what, like 100 meters and get spat like that would do.
Man. But yeah, it was a really special day, definitely. And turned into a much bigger day than I ever thought when I woke up that morning.
Apologies for that, folks. There was just a techie issue that happened at this point in the conversation, but I did want to give Lizzie the platform to talk about Deignan Performance, and therefore I've tried to recover as much of it as I can. It's not the most elegant, but it's the best I've been able to recover the audio track and video. So apologies for that, but yeah, let's get on with the show.
Performance. What's that like in terms of starting a new venture at this time of life? And like, yeah, can you give me a bit of a kind of explanation of it, if you will?
Yeah, so I have always coached myself, mainly because I started on the track, then went over to the road and didn't find anyone really that fit. Never been that great at communicating. I'm a bit of a control freak. So I sort of wanted to have total control and confidence in what I was doing. So I always coached myself. And then after I had my daughter Orla in 2018, my husband retired. And I started to see the way he was coaching his athletes. And there was a bit of jealousy. And I thought, actually, he might be quite good at this. So he started to coach me. Then in 2024, pre-Paris, I met Ayera Testafoam out on a bike ride. She wanted to compete in Paris for the Olympic refugee team. And she didn't really have a coach. She felt a bit lost. And I thought, actually, this is a great challenge for me to take on one rider towards the same goal as me in Paris. And I did, and I really enjoyed the process. I found it really interesting and fulfilling to see someone improve and thrive. And after I stopped racing, I sort of said to Phil, do you think I could... can I work for you? And yeah, I think we make a really good team actually, because he is much more data and scientific driven than I am. Like I still am a little bit old school. I think feelings are still really important, particularly now, like we're so data driven. I think you can still gain a lot out of your athletes by understanding their personalities and what makes them tick, etc. So, yeah, we launched our business and we've taken on lots of really interesting and varied clients, and I'm really enjoying it.
Yeah, I find it really interesting that it's dual coach is like, that's the only option, because, yeah, you both bring your unique strengths to the table. And I think that is the strength of, I guess, yeah, diversity is strength, and it's your partnership.
I mean, if somebody doesn't want to be coached by me and only wants Philip, or the other way around, there is confidentiality available if people want it. But actually, collaboratively, it's been really interesting because also we approach it differently. He was a climbing domestique. He worked with some of the best coaches in the world on Team Sky and all the rest of it, whereas I was more of a puncher, and so our ideas are quite different as well.
Yeah.
We're sort of a good melting pot, I think.
Oh, nice. So the only question that I've got left, as time has defeated us, is how can people keep up with you in the metaphorical sense, because they haven't got a hope of hell of keeping up with you on a bike, as your Soigneur found out. How can people keep up with you on social media and the like?
So that is a very good question. Well, DeignanPerformance.com is our website. So you can find out if anyone's interested in looking into our coaching. And then I am just the usual stuff, Instagram.
Nice. That'll go in the show notes. That'll go on screen. And all that's left for me to say is thank you so much.
Well, thank you for having me.
Well, there you go. That was our episode with Lizzie Deignan. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. As I said, I was so nervous going into it just because it's someone who's, been a world champion. It just felt extra special to get to chat to her. And I just hope you like it. Do share it. Do all those good things for engagement. We love to see it. And until next time, ta-ta.